Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibuyers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here on this Sunday. This is the first episode of the Missing Person series. I talked about being at CrimeCon really inspired me to take a moment every week and feature one person who's missing in this country. And I just happened to meet Bryan Vladek Hasel's sisters at CrimeCon, and I talked to them, and what sweethearts. And their sweethearts are broken because their brother has not been seen in a few years. Let's give you a little bit of timeline on this case so that you're caught up. It's been covered on mainstream media. Brian Entin reported on this a while back. The family just reposted that to keep awareness going. But this one I just felt was the first one I wanted to start with because I got to look in these sisters' eyes and see the pain of not knowing. His dad, Steve, is such a sweetheart. I didn't get to meet him, but watching these videos and seeing these pictures of Vlad with his father, seeing the interview that Brian Entin did with them, just you see the devastation in his heart, just wanting to know something about where his son is. So let's go back to 2004. Vlad and his sister, Irina, are adopted from a Russian orphanage. Vlad was 5 at the time that they were adopted. Fast forward to 2018, Vlad joins the Marines. After he finished boot camp, he was given a desk job. It was not his ideal job. In the summer of 2019, he told his family that he had found a way to be discharged from the Marines. He was having a really hard time with childhood trauma that goes back to being in that orphanage in Russia. The official disposition that he was given was failure to adapt. He got a general discharge under honorable conditions, and then he went to live with his dad for a few months. Move on to January of 2020. He moves in with his sister, Carrie, who lived in Michigan. He got a job as an environmental service tech at St. John's Providence Hospital, Southfield. He loved that job and was really thriving there. After COVID hit, his sister, who was a single mother, had to take a leave of absence from work. If you remember, a lot of these daycares were shutting down. Parents were literally having to quit their jobs or take time off just to watch their kids. And she had to do the same to take care of her daughter. Vlad kept working to make sure that he was able to support the family. A few months later, they all moved to New Hampshire. Moving into summer of 2020, Vlad moves to Florida after he lost his job. He moves in with his dad and his stepmother. There's tension in the house because Vlad is not working. Seems to be coming from the stepmom because his dad saw possible depression brewing in Vlad, and he really didn't want to inflame the situation, but Vlad and his father ultimately move out. His dad later gets divorced. Between September and November of 2020, Vlad and his father stay in hotels. In November 2020, Vlad and his father move into an apartment in Orlando, Florida, the place at Alafaya. In 2021, Vlad started talking about wanting to go off the grid and living in the woods. He said he wouldn't do that while his dad was still alive, though. He did not want to leave his dad alone, and he didn't want to be blamed by anybody for leaving his dad. Vlad started making comments like, "What's the point if I can just be in heaven?" He was beginning to have an increased interest in religion and in heaven, and he went from being materialistic to being very minimal. He would say that things of the world are a distraction from heaven, and he just began to lack motivation and purpose. He started to spend time and money in the homeless community. He enjoyed making people feel important. This is something I've heard over and over and over from so many people that have spoken out who knew Vlad. He was a big tipper at restaurants. He would hand cash to people that were in need, and he would buy things for people that were in need. His sister said he was very fixated on heaven and asked their dad several times, "What happens if you self-harm? Can you still go to heaven? What if I just go into the woods and I lay down and die?" His belief the world was a distraction kind of got deeper and deeper as time went on, and he broke his smartphone, opting for a flip phone only because his dad urged him, saying that he needed to have something. He did give his tablet away as well. November 4th of 2021, the car that Vlad shared with his father was towed to a mechanic. The same day, Vlad calls a friend who worked at a barbecue joint, which was named Smoky Bones in Orlando, and asked if he would be able to crash at this person's place for a night or two. The outgoing call was placed at 7:13 p.m. It lasted for around 5 minutes, but ultimately the person did not say it was okay for him to come stay. The person that he called from that barbecue joint to talk said that during the last month, Vlad went from wanting to preach the Bible and have a pilgrimage to saying he wanted to sing. Last year, the person said he was more really of an acquaintance than a friend. He had known Vlad for about 6 months, and there was a 2-month break during that time that they had contact. He said he only met with him outside of work one time, and that was when Vlad drove him to a pawn shop to pawn off a guitar. He would see Vlad maybe once a week there, and Vlad asked the person to join him and his dad for dinner, but that person declined. He said overall, Vlad's personality was upbeat, energetic, but a little different. He said Vlad would come into the restaurant about once a week to that Smoky Bones barbecue place. He never ordered alcohol and would drink sweet tea. Vlad made a comment to his dad about archangels and demons and saying, "You have to be dark to kill the dark." His dad said Vlad overall just wasn't making a lot of sense, and the family kind of believes that comment might have come from something he watched online in a video. Still on November 4th, Vlad went to a place called Foxtail Coffee. He was listening to music on his headphones and ordered a coffee and kind of paced around as he listened to his music. This was normal behavior, according to staff who worked there. And while there, it was alleged that Vlad pulled out a pocket knife, and the family thinks that he placed it on the table. Now, a customer allegedly sees him do this and tells an employee that they feel very uncomfortable and that they're going to leave. The customer doesn't mention the pocket knife initially, but came back later that night to tell employees that this person saw the pocket knife. The establishment has a zero weapons policy, and they called the sheriff's office to issue a trespass warning. Vlad had already left, and he wasn't aware of the warning. None of the staff saw a pocket knife, and nothing was ever validated on surveillance of that either. November 5th, the next day, Steve, which is Vlad's father, leaves with Vlad's mother, whose name is Cheryl, to meet Bethany and her friends in Tennessee for Bethany's birthday. The 10-day trip was scheduled, and Vlad was invited to go, but he wanted to stay home, and it wasn't uncommon for Vlad to back out of plans at the very last minute. His dad gave him $100 cash and a credit card and offered to buy him groceries, but Vlad said there was enough food in the house and he didn't need any. His dad tells Vlad that he is expecting a package while he's gone and asks him to bring it in when it's delivered, and he agreed to do that. November 6th at 1:59 a.m., Vlad calls his sister Irina. They talk for 6 minutes. Recalling the conversation later, Irina says he didn't say anything to her about going anywhere, and it was not unusual for the two of them to talk so late at night or early into the morning, so that call was not out of the ordinary. November 6th, Vlad goes back to the Foxtail coffee shop, and they call law enforcement. The body cam footage shows the time as 8:11 a.m. That is available online. I'm also putting some screenshots on the YouTube version of this from that encounter. He was permanently trespassed, and Vlad calmly left when the officer asked and was seen walking west towards a Wawa store. I love Wawa, y'all. This is the next to the last official sighting or proof of life that is 100% verifiable. He was wearing a black hoodie, khaki shorts, and red slides or sandals. The paperwork states that it was actually a trespass warning, and if he were to come back, he would be arrested. The customer complaint was actually 2 nights before the officer issued the trespass warning, and they didn't tell Vlad why he was being trespassed. Explain to Vlad that this is a private business and you can be trespassed for the kind of shirt you have on. Police say he was trespassed due to being hyper-verbal. There's no mention of that pocket knife in the report. The officer who was assigned to Vlad's case after he went missing said he was most likely trespassed due to talking too much, but the real reason was not known to that investigator. November 6th at 12:01 p.m., there are unread text messages received from a phone number to Vlad's phone that had never called or texted before. The text said, "Vlad, it's OB from the back of the neighborhood." That message was not read by Vlad, and there's no further activity on his cell phone after the call to his sister, Irina, from earlier that morning. His phone was found in his bedroom near a charging cord, but it wasn't charging. The phone was taken by police on the 18th or 19th of November. Monday, November 8th, that package is delivered to their dad's apartment, and it's still sitting outside when his dad gets back home from Tennessee. Everybody in the family agrees that he would have brought that package inside if he were home. His dad also noticed that none of the food or drinks had been consumed while he was gone to Tennessee, and also that there were no dirty dishes. It didn't look like Vlad had stayed there at all while his dad, Steve, was out of town. Friday, November 12th of 2021, a maintenance worker from the apartment complex says he saw Vlad and spoke to him for 5 minutes near the basketball courts. The package would have been visible from where the worker says that they had this conversation. And the family kind of wonders if maybe the worker just didn't get the date wrong. Monday, November 15th at 3 a.m., Vlad reportedly went to someone's apartment and said he was going off the grid. He was out of breath and also asked for a gun for protection against an animal. The person explained they didn't have a weapon. Still on the 15th, his dad comes home a day early from that vacation and picks up the car they shared on his way home. There was no sign of Vlad, and his cell phone was dead in his bedroom with that charger nearby, so it hadn't been touched. November 17th, Dad and Bethany make a missing persons report. He waited 2 days to do so since he had told Vlad he would be back on Tuesday. He thought Vlad would show up by then. They start posting flyers with Dad's number on there asking for anybody that's seen him to please call. When posting his missing persons flyer around the apartment complex, a University of Central Florida bus driver stopped and said that their buses go through that apartment complex and that Vlad had used it in the past. Thursday, November 18th of 2021, the family asked the apartment complex for any videos that may have Vlad in them. The footage in that complex is only preserved for 7 days, and the only camera feeds that were available were in the gym and the laundry room. The apartment complex also said they could only release the footage to the sheriff's office and that they had to request that from the apartment complex. His sister told the sheriff's office that day about looking for footage there from the complex. Friday, November 19th, the search for Vlad officially begins, and it's in the nighttime. They used choppers, canines. It was raining outside to make matters worse. And the Orlando County Sheriff's Office puts a post on social media about Vlad. Saturday, November 20th, after doing some door-to-door canvassing, police found the man who Vlad stopped by to see at 3 a.m., where he mentioned going off the grid and asking also if he had a weapon. As the search continues, police use thermal imaging, infrared heat, and they also bring in drones to help search for Vlad. The sighting is not listed in the police department's timeline, by the way, as the last sighting of Vlad. Late November, police showed the dad a sandal that they found in the woods while searching. It was a red slide, and they had only found one. Dad tells law enforcement that Vlad owned that kind of sandal, but he wasn't sure if his was red or not. He didn't remember a red pair. Moving ahead to December 20th, that was Vlad's 23rd birthday. The family was approached by Night Owl Recognizance, which is a 501c nonprofit search organization offering their services to help Vlad's case. PlayStation is shipped to Night Owl Recognizance in an attempt to see if there's any information on there that might lead to Vlad. He may have communicated with others while gaming, and he frequently watched YouTube videos. They don't know the content of those videos, either through an app on this console or through a smart TV. There's no further information at this time about any search results or any videos that he watched. February 12th and 13th of last year, between 10 a.m. and noon, there was a possible sighting at the Foxtail. The customer reported an earlier incident to management where they reported seeing a man having a possible manic episode near the Foxtail dumpster. On the day they saw this individual, they reported it to the workers who said they would call the sheriff's office. The man was reportedly talking to himself in very animated fashion, and the subject may have been wearing a white top and light colored pants. He was also barefoot. Customers spoke to the employees about him and then left. He was later observed by the same family leaving Foxtail towards Wawa on foot. The manager of Foxtail later tells family they do not believe that that person these customers saw was Vlad. The police weren't called because the person walked off and there was no surveillance that was preserved to look at. February 24th of last year, the family has a debriefing with law enforcement, and on this, they find out there is an Orlando County Sheriff's Office victim's advocate who is available to them, and that was currently in the room during this debriefing. They are given back Vlad's phone, and when they gave his sister the phone after having it from November to February, she asked the detective if they were able to call any of the people Vlad had been in contact with. The investigator said to her, "No, I thought you did," which I thought was a little odd. That kind of seems like one of the first places you would look when you're trying to find a missing person is who did they last contact. They also returned Vlad's father's laptop. They shared that laptop, but Vlad had not used it in approximately a year before he went missing. His sister Bethany was shown a picture of that red slide shoe, and she was told that the shoe or the slide had been sent out for DNA testing. Bethany told law enforcement those are the types of shoes that he wore, but doesn't remember a red pair. So we're still at this debriefing with law enforcement on February 24th. Bethany asks a female detective who was assigned to the case if his phone records can be requested for more information, and was told that they didn't do that. Vlad had used his phone up to a month before his disappearance. April 9th of 2022, family visited the area and was told by the Foxtail Coffee manager that Vlad went by his legal name Bryan while there at the establishment. He said at times he would wear his headphones in the store, would kind of pace around and then blast music while singing out loud. He would sit at corner tables at times, and if he was asked to be quieter, Vlad would comply with absolutely no issues. Staff said several times customers would complain that Vlad made them feel uncomfortable. Staff spoke to him on several occasions and thought he was struggling. Vlad told staff that he was sleep deprived. Vlad was not working at the time he disappeared, and he was being financially supported by his father. Vlad had a Facebook and an Instagram, but they were blank. He never posted on them, never seemed to have used them. There is a chance he could have used them for messaging, but the family can't gain access to those accounts, so they don't know if he communicated with anybody through those two means. His limited online presence was playing his PlayStation and watching YouTube videos. They are still trying to gain access to the PlayStation account as well as the smart TV account to see who he was following and if he was messaging anybody on those platforms. He wasn't into the party scene. He was not into alcohol or drugs. And the most he had tried was marijuana. He was well recognized at the businesses and restaurants that he would frequent on University Boulevard, Alafaya Trail, and Waterford Lakes Plaza due to his generosity and very friendly personality. He spent his free time helping people in need. Vlad is said to have a huge heart and will strike up conversations with people that he just met. He wanted to make sure that people felt heard and knew they mattered. They don't think he had any contact with anybody in Russia. He did express a general interest in going back at some point, but he doesn't have a current passport. The only thing that the father knows about his biological parents is that they had a history of alcohol abuse. But like his sister said, he wasn't into that scene. Vlad and his father shared that car, but Vlad had access to it most of the time. It was rare that he couldn't use the car, such as if his dad had to go out of town for a doctor's appointment. He would walk to places in that situation, like businesses on University. He never used public transportation around the apartment complex to his family's knowledge. And Vlad has never gone more than a couple of days without reaching out to somebody in the family. If he was in the right frame of mind at the time of his disappearance, he would have at least told his biological sister, Irina, that he was okay and don't worry about me, which he never did. Now, what's sad about this is Hurricane Ian devastated so much of Florida last year, as we know. I mean, there were entire towns wiped out. And the flooding at the apartment that his father and Vlad lived in resulted in 3 feet of water. Some of the other units had 6 feet of water. They lost nearly all of Vlad's belongings, and she said it was like losing Vlad all over again. Her and a friend went back to the apartment complex, and she said it's a ghost town. Nobody lives there anymore due to the amount of flooding it endured. They did post new flyers with messages to Vlad in case he ever were to come back there. She said, I just want to hear his voice again and know if he's okay. Please help me find my baby brother. Since Vlad is such a personable person and would make conversations with anyone he came into contact with, I believe someone knows where he is right now. I believe many people have seen his face, and that's from his sister Bethany. Right now, the more we can get his story out there, the more chance someone will recognize him. She said Vlad doesn't like attention on him and didn't like being in pictures. So if he was in the right frame of mind and see how much his name and picture is out there, she believes he would have reached out to someone or anyone and say, I'm fine, I'm doing my own thing, but he is not. Brian Enton reported on this case back in August where he spent time in the area and talked to people that knew Vlad. Everyone talked about how nice he was, would smile at strangers, take homeless people to dinner, or help somebody with a bill. There were reported sightings, one of those being at a homeless camp and another at a 7-Eleven, but those sightings were never validated. Anybody who has information on Vlad's whereabouts, please call 407-254-7000. His case number is 21-838664. So share this story, share these photos. You never know. One person in that Orlando area could hold the key to finding Vlad and bringing him back home, or give this family the answers they desperately need. So if you have a missing person case that is close to you, that is very personal, or one that's laid on your heart, or one you think needs to be highlighted, drop me an email, gigi@prettyliesandalibis.net. You can also inbox me on social media, although y'all know I suck at answering those messages, but I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to chip away at those now. But email is the best way to get me. All right, everybody. I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And let's get the word out for these people that are missing and the families that miss them every second of every day. All right, guys. We'll see you soon.